We lose Lindy?
All right, let's go ahead and get started. This is the public hearing for preliminary plat review. Today's Thursday, May 14th, 2020. The Youngsville City Council and Mayor are here to review several plats this evening. We'll start with the 4 p.m. plat, which is preliminary plat approval, creating lots 48A. Let's go ahead and get started. This is the 48A, 49A, and 49B from lots 48, 49, and unnumbered lots of Darfin Estates, owner John Foti. So we're gonna have Clint Semino review the letter and his recommendation for us. I know we have a couple of people that have joined the call. We have Sean that's here as a guest, and there's also a caller in from a 225 area code. So what we'll do is we'll have Clint review the comments for this proposed development. I'll ask the council for their comments and feedback, and then we'll take public comment. So if you're joining us on the Zoom call, we'll call on you momentarily. If any of the public has comments about this development, I'll share a number with you momentarily. But I'm going to go ahead and just mute everybody's lines with the exception of Clint, so that way Clint can go ahead and get started.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see my screen here?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So
we're on way.
Darfin Estates, the plat has been submitted and reviewed for general compliance with the recommendations for development in the city of Youngsville. We recommend the city of Youngsville accept this preliminary plat with the following comments. Identify the setbacks, 20-foot front, 5-foot side, 10-foot rear, and B, a 30-foot drainage servitude is required from the top bank of the coulee. The plat conditions is 1, it may require a drainage impact analysis depending on what is constructed on this lot. 2, approval of this preliminary plat does not imply that the utility services necessarily are necessary to serve the development currently exists, or if they do exist, they may not have capacity to serve the planned development. Any such evaluation and determination would take place by the respective utility during the detailed review of the engineer's plans. 3, if desired in the future, the owner developer is responsible for any required sewer infrastructure to convey sewer from the development to the city of Youngsville sanitary sewer treatment plant or the nearest location with available capacity as determined by the city. The available capacity of the sewer system at the point of discharge from the development into the city sewer system shall be evaluated by the city engineer during the detailed review of engineering plans. The city reserves the right to require the developer to contribute funds towards the upgrade of the existing sewer lift station and collection lines that may result from the addition of the development's sewer discharge to the overall system. 4, if desired in the future, the owner developer shall utilize the city water system as the source of water for the development. The available capacity of the existing water system in the area relative to the proposed development's consumption of the city water shall be evaluated during the detailed review of engineering plans. The city reserves the right to require the owner developer to contribute funds towards the city's water distribution system to provide the requested water services to the development. 5, any changes to the preliminary plat after this initial review may require a resubmittal of the preliminary plat. 6, the owner developer is reminded that the final design and all construction activities associated with the development of this plat, including required submittals and permits, must comply with the applicable city ordinances in effect that at the time of submittal and the city's residential design, development, and resource guide. 7, the developers is reminded that inspection services are required in the most recent Unified Development Code. 8, the developer is reminded that this letter does not permit the initiation of construction activities. 9, additional easements may be required for this development. This will be evaluated during the review of the actual development construction plans. So the reason why we're bringing this before the council today, they're doing a boundary line adjustment for this shed here. It was right on the boundary line. It was within the setback. And so he owns the line, the lot behind him. So he's doing a boundary line adjustment, taking this lot line away from his shed, but also he owns this lot here as well. So he is, well, like we brought it before the council for transparency because there is a lot of trees here. So if he does start to develop on his property here, this is right behind the villas at Highland. So we were bringing it before the council for transparency.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Clint. Let me just interject there. If there's anybody that's viewing on YouTube that has public comment, they may call 346-248-7799. That's 346-248-7799. You'll be prompted for a meeting ID. That meeting ID is 882-5349-1207. The meeting ID is, again, is 882-5349-1207. We do have two people that have joined our call, but before I get to them, I'll ask the council if there's any comments related to this development. And then after that, I'll introduce the callers that we have holding.
I do have a question, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Councilman Absar.
So as of right now, he's got no intentions of developing what's in back of him.
Well, he has come to the city before for a culvert permit, correct? So, and so he was getting access back here, but he hasn't made it anything clear to the city that he wants to do any development at this time. Is that correct, Mayor?
Ms. Andrews, did you have a comment about that? Yes, let me unmute you. I'm sorry.
Ms. Foti had called me during the week and I asked her what was the intent for that property. And she said, hopefully they will build a new home on that back track. So I don't know, the bigger track in the back. So I'm not sure if that's still the case or not. She may be one of the calls that's on the line, Mayor. I'm not sure.
Okay, let me go ahead and see. Let's see, Sean, are you on the call, Sean? Let's see. And then also, I'm going to unmute. There's a caller from a 225 area code. Caller, if you tell us maybe your name.
Yeah, that's me. So I don't have a webcam in my office. So that's my cell phone number, the 225. This is Sean. I'm the surveyor.
Okay.
So they do plan on building a house back here and kind of thinning out the trees. I don't think they're taking them all out. But Mr. John wants to kind of clear out a little spot and build a retirement home back on the, 2.7 acre tract, and possibly sell the house at 250 Atlas.
Okay.
And that was kind of their intent of this whole survey, was to create one entire lot to build their house on.
Okay. Well, I just see where that's located. I mean, I know that we've done extensive drainage work and studies back in that area due to 2016, and just trying to get a feel of what we would expect, if anything, to go back there and make sure that there's nothing that would be grandfathered in, that it would be all applicable to new standards and codes that we have in place.
Yeah, yeah. And where they plan on building is going to be in Zone X on the top of that, kind of where that cul-de-sac is in the back. the
Yes,
old cul-de-sac. He wants to build a house right there,
okay,
somewhere in that area. And
okay,
it'd be much smaller house than his other house, so it's not gonna be a huge mansion or anything. But he does want to kind of clean it up and you know, thin out some of the trees so he can live back there.
yes, sir.
Does that answer your question,
But
Councilman?
anything we do back there is gonna be applicable to the new standards, correct?
Correct.
Any other questions from the council? All right, let's see. If there's any other public comment, I'll make one more call for public comment. The area code is 346-248-7799. 346-248-7799. And the meeting ID is 882-5349-1207. Okay. Let's see. We have one call coming in. I think it may be for the next, I think it might be for the next hearing. I'll just verify with the caller when the audio connects before we get ready to move on.
So one of my only questions is, are they gonna require a drainage impact analysis on a lot in Zone X for one house?
Let's see, Clint or Pam, you want to address that, please?
Yeah, I believe it depends on how much how much area the house takes up compared to the lot.
Okay. Yeah, I just kind of want to be able to inform John as to what, because I know they're not going to remove it, but it is in Zone X, and he only plans on building about a 1,500 square foot house, so on 2 acres with gravel drive, if I remember correctly.
Uh,
I don't think you can have a gravel drive under current regulations. This is Pam, Sean. I think what they were saying is Mr. Foti will have to meet current regulations, not anything that was in place with Darfin Estates. And when Darfin Estates was designed, there was no drainage impact with regards to impervious area for detention. But this area is very tight with regards to drainage. There is no room for additional impervious without detention. So I think with regards to Councilman Abshire, that's what he was alluding to. So we want the owner, developer, whoever, whether it's Mr. Foti or if it gets sold, to understand that this is a boundary line adjustment, but because of what we know is the intention and the area, it will have to be compensated for. So even if the house is 1,500 square feet, if there's a shed, driveway, stuff like that, that is a tendency on something as large as this. But to be able to get it in that area, the area gets pretty taxed with drainage right now. And I think that's what the councilman was alluding to. So it's not a 100-year analysis. We require 2 different things, regular drainage analysis and 100-year. What Mr. Semino was referring to in his letter was a drainage analysis, not the 100-year.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So I just want to kind of at least be able to inform them as to what y'all would possibly require when they go for building permits. Mm-hmm. Now, another thing I will tell you is he does not own this unnumbered lot on the west side of the coulee, down on the southwest corner. Kind of just north, right there. Mm-hmm. So I won't be able to give a 30-foot access on that side. You see what I'm saying? The west ditch line runs down the property line. Yeah, so I won't be able to give you anybody else's property there because that's not part of the survey on the west side.
And so there's a coulee that runs here, correct?
Yeah, we'll have to give you 30 foot off of that top bank too.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm just informing that the back of 46, the
wouldn't-
guy owns both of those. So I won't be able to give you any of his property because it's isn't part of this survey.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, any other comments or questions from members of the council? We did not have any other public comment. We also invited public comment by email, and our city clerk has reported that there's been no public comment received by email from the notices that were sent out. So if there's no other questions, we can go ahead and stop this one. Mr. Sean, what we'll do is we have 2 other public hearings on also development tracks. And then when the 6 o'clock city council meeting starts is when the council will vote on, will actually take action. So you don't have to participate in that one. We won't be hearing any other public comment during the 6 p.m. meeting. Clint or myself can contact you or Sally and advise you the outcome at the conclusion of the meeting if you're unable to watch.
Okay. All right. It'll be the same Zoom meeting, or y'all have it on YouTube?
You'll be able to watch it on YouTube.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
All right. Thank you for joining us, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Andrews, you think, I mean, we can probably, I would suggest we probably go ahead and get started with the 431 because we can, we'll still be able to accept public hearing after, we'll go into 430. What are your thoughts?
Well, the only thing is the notice did say 4:30, so
Okay, well, let's wait a few minutes.
at least wait maybe 5 minutes before or something like that. So
Okay, I see the developers joined, and I'm admitting Mallory to the meeting now as well. And then we have one other caller that's going to be joining in for this one, so we'll check with in just a second. Wes, was anyone else from your development going to be joining? Was Troy joining? Do you know?
No, we're okay.
Okay, perfect.
Mayor, you did say Mallory was joining, right?
Yep, Mallory's in the meeting now, and she's unmuted, so you can say hi to her.
Right. Oh, hey, there you are.
All right. All right.
I think we needed a bigger plat to look at. The piece of paper is like huge.
Oh, I know, that was an oversized one. I think that was kind of like a mistake, but it's better than it's better than little 8, the little,
I'm like, no, wait, I gotta stand up and pin it to the wall and look at it.
it's pretty good.
Is
Now-
that's ours you're looking at, Jamie?
Yeah,
It's on that 3 foot by 4 foot. They made me one of
Yeah.
those the other day. I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? Kill a monster fly? Oh.
If anyone's watching on our live feed, we're going to be starting the public hearing at 4:30 for Cane Haven subdivision. So if there is any public comment for this particular development, you're welcome to go ahead and call in. The area code is 346-248-7799. Again, it's 346-248-7799. You'll be prompted to enter a meeting ID when you call in, and that meeting ID is 882-5349-1207. So it's 882-5349-1207. Okay, All right, we have a couple of other, a couple guests that have joined the meeting. What we'll do, we're going to start the hearing for Cane Haven subdivision at 4:30. Our engineer will be reviewing the development, and then we'll accept questions regarding the development from our city council members. We're joined today by the developer is Wesley Hebert. His engineer is also here as well. So if you're just tuning in, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions, or hopefully we'll be able to address your concerns before you have an opportunity to ask a question. But thank you for joining us. We will acknowledge you at the appropriate time during the meeting. All right, I'm comfortable getting started, Sally. I think we can.
I think you're good, Mayor.
All right, let's go ahead and do it then. It's Thursday, May 14th, 2020. We're hearing the preliminary plat for Cane Haven subdivision. It's a single-family residential development located in section 20 and 21 T11S R5E, and the owner and developers Cane Haven LLC. They're represented today by their developer, Wesley Hebert. His engineer is also in this meeting. Similar to the 4 p.m. hearing, we'll hear the letter for the preliminary plat review with plat comments, and that's from Clint Semino. At the conclusion of that, we'll take council comments or questions. The developer and his team will have the opportunity to respond if necessary, and then we'll accept public comment on this development as well. So if you're just joining us, the number for public comment, 346-248-7799, 346-248-7799, and the meeting ID is 882-5349-1207. So Clint, why don't you go ahead and take it from here, please?
All right. So the preliminary plat for Cane Haven Phase 1 has been submitted and reviewed for general compliance with requirements for development in the city of Youngsville. We recommend that the city of Youngsville accept this preliminary plat with the following comments. First, we would like to remove Lot 1 and dedicate it as common area. Lot 1 here has been reserved for a mailbox kiosk. The majority of it is in a enhanced building setback, and there's not much room for a buildable area, which is why they're going to use this for a mailbox kiosk. And so what we would like to do is to just not call this Lot 1, dedicate this as common area, and just have the mailbox kiosks be in common area of the development. Next, we would like for the fence note to include no fences in the enhanced setback. We had them put a note saying that where lots encroach the drainage servitude, that the fence shall not be in the drainage servitude. We want to make sure that basically that these lots here, their fence will not go all the way to the right of way, because you run into the event that somebody may, try to construct a shed or a pool or anything that's in the setback, and these homeowners might not realize that they were not allowed to. So to circumvent this, we're just gonna require that no fences are allowed in the enhanced building setback. Third, we want to include the detention area on the plat. By ordinance, drainage area may not account for more than 50% of the common area requirement. This year, we want to show the ponds on the plat, and we want to note how much area is going to be taken up by detention area, so that we can ensure that this ordinance is being followed. Fourth, 10-foot dedicated right-of-way should be dedicated to the city of Youngsville. This road up front, Longley Road, it did belong to LCG. And so this note was an old note that was dedicating this right-of-way to LCG. We want that to say dedicated to the city of Youngsville. Lastly, the streets must not be designed to be greater than 1,500 feet without traffic calming. So currently this phase does not encroach that 1,500 foot requirement. Once they get to this intersection here, they're going to be at about 1,450 feet or so. So they're right up against it. What we're recommending is putting the traffic calming at this intersection and this intersection here. So you don't end up having like, like a drag strip, but technically they are by ordinance allowed to put them here, but they will be required to do so in the next phase. So I wanted to make that recommendation part of this plat to put the traffic calmings at these intersections. And I'll get into the conditions. We recommend waiving condition 5 through 10, 17, and 23 of the ADRC report and replace it with the City of Youngsville's ordinances. These comments on the ADRC report are just general comments from LCG where Youngsville's ordinances are either more stringent or just more stringent. We'd rather use the Youngsville's. Second, we would recommend waiving condition 2 through 4 and 20 through 22. Conditions 2 through 4 were made on the assumption that this development would be in the Lafayette Parish instead of the city of Youngsville. So these didn't really apply. Conditions 20 through 22, we would like to waive, and I'll bring those up now. 20 of the ADRC is one stub out street right away to be dedicated on the eastern property line. One stub out street is required to be dedicated on the southern property line, and a traffic impact analysis shall be performed due to necessary accommodations for increased traffic. These two stub out streets are fronting these developed lots here. You would have a stub out basically to like a guy's backyard. So we recommend waiving a stub out street to the east and to the south here. And lastly, the traffic impact analysis we're waiving just because of the general area of this property. We did not feel that it warranted a traffic impact analysis. And we recommend no additional waivers for the remaining conditions on the ADRC. Number 4, street addresses are required on the plat. 5, the review of this preliminary plat is for general conformance with the overall development requirements. The developer must submit detailed engineering plans for review and approval by the appropriate authority prior to construction. It is the responsibility of the developer engineer to notify, coordinate, and ultimately adjudicate any review comments to the satisfactions of the appropriate authority. This would include any individual permits that may be required for construction activities. Approval of this preliminary plat does not imply that utility services necessary to serve the development currently exist, or if they do exist, have the capacity to serve the planned development. Any such evaluation and determination would take place by the respective utility during the detailed review of engineering plans. If desired in the future, the owner or developer is responsible for any required sewer infrastructure to convey the sewer from the development to the city of Youngsville's sanitary sewer treatment plant or the nearest location with the available capacity as determined by the city. If desired in the future, the owner developer shall utilize the city's water system as a source of water for the development, the available capacity of the existing water system in the area relative to the proposed development's consumption of city water shall be evaluated during the detailed review of the engineering plans. 9, a minimum of 10% common open space is required for all residential developments. Detention ponds can only account for 50% of the common area. Detention ponds must be aerated to count as common open space. 10, submittal of a drainage impact analysis shall be submitted to the city for review approval prior to construction. Please note that this subdivision is subject to the 25-year detention requirements. 11, all signage shall conform with the city's sign ordinance. The proposed signage will be evaluated when the required sign permit application is submitted for the review. Any changes to the preliminary plat made after this initial review may require a resubmittal of the preliminary plat. The owner developer is reminded that the final design and all construction activities associated with the development of this plat, including required submittals and permits, must comply with the city's applicable city ordinances in effect at the time of submittal and the city's residential design development and resource guide. 14, the developer is reminded that the inspection services are required in the most recent Unified Development Code. 15, the developer is reminded that this letter does not permit the initiation of construction activities. 16, the construction plans submitted for detailed review should be a complete set of plans. Do you want to take over from here, Mayor?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for reading that. I know it's a lot.
Yeah.
So if you're just joining us by chance, I want to just acknowledge that we're reviewing Cane Haven, a proposed residential subdivision on Longline Road near the intersection of South of Riviere. In this meeting with this is the developer Wesley Hebert, his engineer Mallory Hutchinson, and at this point, why don't I just pause and we'll open it up for comments from the council. Before we do so, let me just make a couple general comments. This development, as you know, council, we recently annexed into the city limits. This development was being reviewed in the unincorporated part of Lafayette Parish initially. We've been having some conversations about this development for some time with the developer and his team, primarily related to water and sewer to service that development. Whether it was incorporated or not, we were going to likely play a part with at least water. So this development will be served by our water lines on Longline Road, and then also with an extension on South of Riviere. In addition to that, one of the things on your council agenda this evening at 6 o'clock is awarding the bid for our sewer extension, which will be bringing our sewer line from Southside High School's regional pump station to Shimon-Metairie, and also South of Riviere. So it'll be the developer's responsibility to tie in at that spot. So we had 6 bidders for that project, so we were really excited about it, and we'll get the sewer to the intersection, and then Cane Haven will bring it down the road from there. So we're already, I think, on our second review of plans here, and it's a little bit untraditional in a sense, in that the development was happening whether it was in Youngsville or not. So that's why the plans are further ahead at this stage of the game than normally. So With that, I'll just pause, and there are comments from the Area-Wide Development Review Committee comprehensive report. I'll just suggest that we submit those into the record. As Clint did reference that letter a few times, there are some things on that letter that he's recommending waiving because the Youngsville standards are a little different from those that were indicated on the ADRC Review Committee report. So any comments or questions from the council related to this development? Once the council makes their comment, we'll give an opportunity for the developer and his team to be interactive, and then I'll acknowledge public comment at that time. So council, any questions?
I've got one, just for my knowledge, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Councilman Abshar.
I know that we're asking to waive one of the requirements. What exactly involves the traffic impact study? Like I say, just from my knowledge of.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I haven't done one before. Pam, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, sure. So for the traffic impact analysis or the study, they would be looking at how many cars are coming in and out as that are basically because of the subdivision and the impacts to the road and what you would change. We do have an enhanced setback should you have anything, but based on the amount of cars that would be coming in and out of this subdivision, while it is more than what's out there on this particular road, it's not something that would constitute a turning lane. So it's in there for the areas where if we look at it and it's going to be a lot, or if it's in an area where we need to minimize how many drives or whatever. So there are several of our subdivisions which we have not made them do it if we don't feel that the amount is going to become a traffic jam or something that we need to add a turning lane. But by all means, that is our recommendation. If the council feels otherwise, then it is in our development guide and in our purview to be able to ask for it. But just from where the area, Clint and I talked about it and felt that that it wouldn't be needed with regards to this development.
So in other words, that would be the study of traffic that would come in and off of Long Lene Road, correct?
As a result of, yeah, it would be on Long Lene Road as a result of this development.
Okay, fair enough.
Any other comments from the council? We did have one written public comment that I'll read, but I want to give other council members an opportunity to ask questions should there be any. Yes, Councilman Stansbury.
There, I have a question about the actually the removal of lot 1 to common area instead of saying lot 1. What's the deal? I see it up there on the plat.
Yeah,
or a kiosk.
The reason why I think the developer and his team are already acknowledging that is that it's going to be the location of their mailbox cluster, which is a requirement now of the Postal Service, is my understanding. So it's our opinion that it's really just a housekeeping matter because it's really not going to be a lot that'll be able to sell, but rather it's going to be common area. So that's really, I think, what the comment is. On an earlier version of the plat, it simply indicated as lot 1. I see on this updated plat there's an indication that that's going to be where the mailbox kiosks are locating. So I think we're on the same page with it. I think it's more or less just a housekeeping note at this point.
Is there any reason why it should be lot 1? I mean, Mallory or Wes, or is
Mallory and Wes, I believe you're both unmuted. If y'all want a good time to introduce you both.
I can chime in on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Mallory weigh in on it.
Okay.
Thanks, Les. I was actually going to request to amend comment A and just ask that it to read or as determined by city engineer. This is something I was just going to talk with Clint about specifically because we have a few reasons why it's a little bit cleaner for title and for the title attorney to keep it as a specific lot. But if we discuss with Clint and he still wants us to change it as common area, we can do that. but I was just gonna request that it be changed to read as determined, because I just wanted to discuss that. It's still common area, and it'll still be common area in the restrictive covenants. It's just sort of like a hair splitting thing that we're dealing with.
Gotcha. Yeah, my main concern with it being lot one is that it being sold, and if it does get sold, you only have, I think it's like 14 feet of buildable area.
Right. And it would still be considered common area in the restrictive covenants, so it couldn't be sold. It's just that by designating it as lot one, because it has a very specific purpose, it's a little bit easier for the title attorney to break it out, because if it's considered, if we call it just common area, it'll be lumped in with the retention ponds, and it has obviously a more specific purpose than that. Also, because we need a street address for it, for lighting, for the electricity, they require us to have an address for that lot. So again, we're like, it's a very minor detail. That's why I was just going to kind of talk with Clint about that specifically, but we'll change it if y'all would prefer it that way. It just makes the title work a little bit cleaner if we keep it as a lot.
Okay. What are your thoughts, Pam?
I'm okay if it's identified like it is on this plat, saying it's reserved for mailbox kiosk. And if we do get the proof of the restrictive covenants that they can't build in it. And I think as long as it's noted in this public hearing that lot cannot have anything built on it outside of mailboxes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Councilman Stansberry, any other questions, sir?
No, that was it. That was odd. I hadn't seen that before. So I just wanted to get some clarification on that. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. Any other comments from any of the council members? All right, well, let me do this. Let me read. We received a written letter that I'll read. It's directed to Ms. Andrews, encloses a letter dated January 18th, 2018 to Lafayette Parish Consolidated Government, expressing concerns of flooding on our property located south of Cane Haven subdivision. To date, we've never received any information regarding our questions. Please note on the original letter, highlighted problems, the present situation of the drainage easement, no retention ponds if noted on the recent plat. We have not detected it. Our drainage servitude areas ponds. Long Lenné, and let me just read it, I guess, and then I think we can probably answer some of these questions, to her satisfaction. Long Lenné Road flooding. In addition, the present plat shows approximately half the number of lots and homes as on the original one. A later date of more homes, question. If the responsibility has now been placed on Youngsville government, please appreciate our interest and anxiety. We all know the increased risk of flooding today without proper investigation of all probabilities and possible solutions developed. We thank you, Ms. Andrews, for the attention given on our behalf and those of our neighbors. And this is from Mrs. Wilda and Mr. Charles Gunn. Their original letter was dated October 18th, 2018, to Como Engineering and Consulting. To whom it may concern, please be advised I represent Randall Gunn and Charles R. and Wilda Gunn in connection with the above referenced matter. All of my clients reside on tracts of land located immediately south of the east portion of the proposed Cane Haven subdivision. Charles and Wilda Gunn have resided in their home for more than 20 years, and Mr. Randall Gunn for more than 10. You may or may not know that a very large portion of the western half of the proposed subdivision floods with moderate rain. The flooding historically occurs even in more moderate rain, resulting in the flooding of Long Lenné Road, which borders the northern boundary of the proposed subdivision. Some time ago, the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government requested that Wilda and Charles Gunn provide an easement on their northern property line adjacent to the proposed subdivision, which proceeds for some distance, then turns south towards Piat Road. Despite repeated demands, the drainage easement, which consists of a ditch in some places and a small portion of underground culverts, is washing away and is not being maintained. The proposed subdivision would greatly increase the intensity of watershed onto my client's property to the extent that the current drainage in place will be grossly insufficient to handle the water entering their property from the subdivision. My review of the plat provided to me shows common area and drainage servitudes A and B, but no retention ponds, nor does it appear that any consideration was given to the fact that the northwest portion of the proposed subdivision is essentially a swamp and often floods. Pursuant to Louisiana Civil Code Article 667, you're hereby placed on notice that the proposed subdivision will inevitably increase the intensity of the watershed onto my client's property and cause their property to flood therefrom. Pursuant to Louisiana Civil Code 667, the proposed work in the subdivision will deprive my clients of peaceful possession of their property, will deprive them of the enjoyment thereof, and result in significant damages. It is my client's position that the likely future flooding events could be avoided with the exercise of reasonable care by you. And this letter is notice that the proposed project will cause damage, which could have been prevented by the exercise of reasonable care. My clients demand that the proposed subdivision project be put on hold until such time that the drainage issues can be adequately resolved. Please direct all questions to the undersigned. And it's signed sincerely, James L. Daniels. And that is, again, the law firm representing the Gunns. I'm not sure if the Gunns joined us, but I think we can go ahead and I can probably address some of these. The drainage areas that are depicted are indeed ponds. And this is a later version of the plat than you've been previously provided back in 2018. And it's my belief, and I'll let the technical team address it further, but it's my belief that we'll have probably a more rigorous review process of the development and the impacts of flooding than would be the case if it was in the undeveloped portion of Lafayette Parish, as it was the city council and our administration of Youngsville that were the first to increase drainage standards and requirements, as it was part of the 2015 master plan that was adopted by the council in the beginning of 2016. Longland A Road flooding. I'm gonna pause on that one just to give the team some opportunity. Mallory, I'm sure you're familiar with this letter. It was sent by certified mail to your office. Do y'all have any feedback for the record that can perhaps give some comfort to the Gunns?
Well, I will say, just to provide a little bit of historical context, this channel actually used to drain through their property. Historically, you can see it on quad maps, and you can see the staining of where the channel used to go. LCG went in some time ago. You can see where the pond is. The channel historically went through there. LCG went in some time ago, I believe in the 80s, and constructed the ditch south of the property that heads west, and then south again to Piatt Road that we show on the plat. And LCG got for themselves a drainage servitude on that ditch, and they also put in some pipe on the southern portion right near Piatt Road. There's some 60-inch culverts. Originally, this subdivision was designed with inline retention because we felt like the existing channel is not capable of handling the amount of water that comes through it. And so we felt like inline retention was going to be our best design for this area and to improve the drainage in the area. We were not able to do inline retention because of Lafayette Consolidated Government, and so that is when we instead left the channel alone and put retention ponds. The retention ponds that you see are actually sized and capable to handle the drainage for the entirety of phase 1 and phase 2 post-development. And we are meeting all of the requirements to decrease the runoff by 15%. I think we're even below that actually, and we have the retention capability that Youngsville requires of the 25-year. I believe we actually can hold even more storm than that in these ponds. So we feel very confident in that our design will greatly improve the drainage in this area. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Mallory. Clint and/or Pam, any feedback there? I know Clint, you are reviewing the drainage,
Yes.
the drainage impact study, and have been going through I don't know if you call it an iterative process with Mallory, but I believe you're on the second round of review there, and I believe they have some more comments that they're addressing from your last review. So maybe you can shed some light on where we stand with it now.
I think the last review I had to them, they were redesigning some of the roads here, so it is going to change some of their drainage, but for the most part, from what I've seen of what they currently have going to the ponds were sized adequately. Also, I did want to note one of the public comments that I believe the Guns had was that this plat had half of the lots, and they were curious about the future. The plat that she received was for phase 1, and so these lots here will be platted in phase 2 after this is accepted, and then move on to phase 2. She will receive another notice for the plat for phase 2.
Any comments, Mallory, perhaps, or Clint, Pam? I mean, y'all are all professional engineers and are familiar with that area. What about the feedback regarding Long Lene Road?
So the area north, this development, north of this, but east of La Riviere, there is a pretty sizable off-site area that drains through this ditch. But the pipe that is going under Long Lene is only, I believe, a 30, and it is mostly buried. So I think that probably a decent amount of road flooding is most likely being caused by that pipe being too small and full of dirt because it hasn't been maintained at all.
I'll also add that on Long Lene, there's a section of road probably about 1,000 feet long where there is no ditch. So besides the fact that that culvert under Lene is probably a little too small, the fact that the water can't run down a ditch along Long Lene is, I think, the bigger problem. So we've talked with the mayor about this, and we've talked every time it's come up. We've said absolutely we will cut a ditch, and so once we get the equipment out there, we'll cut a ditch there too. I think honestly that's the only reason that Long Lene goes underwater ever, is because the water has to pass over it when it's traveling downhill. So we'll fix that part. But when we submitted to Lafayette, when we ran the numbers on inline retention, it met the standards, and we really wanted to go that route, and even that route met the standards. But since then we conceded and we said, okay, look, we're going to leave that ditch that's there alone, but we're going to make it better, and we're going to add 4 retention ponds, because I think we originally had 2 for the whole project. So we've spent the last year and a half has really been spent on making sure that what we're doing with the water is going to be a solution, and that it's going to help everybody around us. It's important to us that it is a benefit to everybody, because we're investing in it, and we want to make sure that when we leave, it's nice. So I want our neighbors to know that, Mr. Gunn, I want you to know that, it's important to me that we're not going to be dumping water on your property. But I really believe right now we've done our homework. And Clint's reviewed it. We've had Lafayette reviewed it as well. We were at that point. So anyway, that's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hebert. Our Public Works Director is on the line. I'm going to ask him to just make a note about to do an inspection of the ditch. Terry, if you don't mind, that Mallory's referring to, that goes underneath. And we know, I mean, Councilman Williams and I have had the discussion about the roadside water. So I agree. I think that there's something that can be done in that area to improve it. I mean, it has been in the unincorporated area, so I probably don't have to go into much detail about that, but I think that it is something that we can do probably. We have not really taken a look at the maintenance aspect of the infrastructure in that area. The Long Lane, I was more inclined to accept the annexation and recommend it to the council once the consolidated government did the overlay of Long Lane Road. I thought the infrastructure was improved. But if indeed, there is an issue with the pipe across Long Lane, I mean, that's something that we can look into. Right, Councilman Stansberry?
Yeah, quick question on the drainage plan.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking, who's controlling the map? Can y'all make it?
Oh,
so
yeah.
Do as well.
What did you want to see?
Just kind of looking ahead, I don't see any more drainage for drainage ponds, detention ponds in phase 2. Is phase 1 enough for that whole phase 1 and phase 2 collectively?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, her drainage analysis did include the future areas going to these ponds. Is that correct, Mallory? I think she's correct. Yeah. Well, I do believe so.
Okay.
That's affirmative.
Off would be able to be handled by those ponds. I also wanted to add, because I forgot to mention this earlier, but we did also size phase 1 drainage for a 10-year storm, which is required by Youngsville if the subdivision is to be phased. So that is also another kind of step up in the drainage design that was done on this property. That's higher standard than normal.
She means the collection system.
Correct.
She's talking about the collection system, your inlets and your pipes. We typically have 5-year when it's just a single subdivision, but if you're going to have one phase going into another to make sure your outfall can handle it, it needs to be 10-year. So they've already sized the collection system for a 10-year in anticipation of it to meet our requirements. Just I wanted to clarify in case, and 25-year is the detention that they are going to do. And Mayor, if I may, just for those that are on the call who might not be familiar with Clint and I and with the passion, and I know Mallory and others will know, and there is no doubt that the hardest place to get a drainage study and to get drainage approved is the city of Youngsville and going through Clint and I. So if however long it takes and however many iterations to have to make sure the drainage meets and addresses all the issues is what we're going to do. So we have, to me, it's the hardest place to make sure that you have all your I's dotted and T's crossed on drainage is here, and we're going to make sure that happens.
All right, thanks, Ms. Granger. Mr. Stansberry, is that good for you, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any other council comments or questions? Okay, hearing or seeing none, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. We have several visitors that are on there. Yes, is Mr. Mayu?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is that you, Mayor Ken?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. So look, I live on the east boundary of the property, Eric and Rachel Mayu, 126 Egret Road. And I listened intently to your letter you read from Charles Gunn and from Wilda. And I attest to everything they said in that letter was spot on accurate with what they had to say. There's a couple of things I want to point out. You know, my wife and I built and moved into this house, but been 5.5 years. And so I saw what that field looked like behind us for the August 2016 flood. And it was 3 foot of water. I could have got in a boat with an engine on it and went and water skied in there. I mean, it was knocking on doorsteps of residents all around me. When you look at the plot that's on the screen right now, they have that green drainage. Y'all call it the retention servitude or something like that, where it goes under the road on Longanay. That is a tremendous bottleneck right there. There's probably like a 18-inch culvert, and it's dug out very nicely on both sides of the road, but there's a bottleneck on the road right there. And I passed on Longanay yesterday, and my intention was to get on my Polaris and go take a ride all over that development, as I have done several times, just looking at the progress. Pretty cool what they're doing back there. These retention ponds are tremendously deep. But I would comment that other than the rain we're getting right now, we haven't, the last rain we had was about 5 days ago. And that's the culvert right there on the screen. It's a major bottleneck, but you see how full that ditch is right there? That first retention pond closest to the road right there, as of yesterday, which we hadn't had rain in 5 days leading up to yesterday, that first retention pond's capped to the top full. And my biggest concern is if it's full 5 days later from a rain and it's a retention pond, why hasn't it gone down to nothing? I wanted to go ride and look at the other ponds to see what they look like, if they were full as well, but probably are. And a big concern of mine is if phase 2, all that open pasture that hasn't even begun development yet is going to all drain into these ponds. That scares the heck out of me for these poor people that might have flooded houses at some point in time. With that being said, I think, you know, they dug the ditches out very nicely. That culvert's a big issue, and the ponds are very full right now just from 5 days ago rain. And I mean, we just got a couple of nasty storms that came through here in the last hour. So I know they cresting at the top. They gotta be. I'd be more than happy to jump on my Polaris and go ride over there and take some pictures and send them to any of y'all who'd like to see them. So that's my 2 cents on it. I'm still highly concerned about the drainage. And I don't know that just putting big old ponds on this development's gonna resolve the issue. I think when you start looking at drainage, there's no question about it. I think it needs to look on a large scale, you know, a 2-mile radius of a place. And I know, Mayor Ken, y'all have been allocating lots of money for drainage restoration all over the city of Youngsville. And I see it because I drive through the town. I drive through Chemin Metairie. I go the back ways down La Riviere and all of that. And I see them digging these ditches out and making them bigger and wider to accommodate better drainage. But there's a lot more areas that need that same attention that could very possibly be on y'all's roster to get to over time. I don't know how much budget y'all have left and how far y'all plan to take all of that, but I'm serious when I say this. I'm joking, but I'm serious. But it ain't gonna hurt my feelings if you allocate a little bit of those funds for Egret Road to dig out my side of the ditches too, because they silted over to the top, and I culverted my place. Take a drive by 126 Egret. I'm the house with the flagpole. I love my place. I take a lot of pride in it. But this development, I think it's going to be a very nice neighborhood someday, and there's going to be a lot of happy families that live there. But I'm again, the drainage, man. I just don't know that them ponds are full right now. You know what I'm saying? That's scary.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the comments. The homes on Egret are beautiful homes. And the best thing about Egret Road right now is that you're adjacent to the city limits of Youngsville, so we can annex you anytime you want. If you're on if you're on the right side of that road, and maybe even if you're not, we can cross the road. So I would welcome you to the city of Youngsville. Our public works director is on the line, and His team takes a lot of pride. He was hired specifically to address drainage within our city limits. And best thing for you is that the city limits is very close to you. So I think that as this area has been approved by the council for annexation, I think you'll be seeing more of our equipment closer to you. As Pamela attested to earlier, I mean, there's a lot of eyes on the drainage development. The developer, Mr. Hebert, lives here in Youngsville. Mallory's going to be the engineer of record. She lives here in the area as well. Pamela's a Youngsville resident, as well as Clint Semino. So you got 3 engineers on the phone and a public works director with nearly 20 years of drainage experience. And so, you know, I think when this thing is approved for development, it'll enhance the area. And you know, but your comments aren't taken lightly, and I saw the engineers taking note, and we're gonna hold them accountable to it. It should not adversely impact your development. If that area historically held water, that should be accounted for properly in this drainage study. And you know, that Public Works has already made a note about that drainage pipe. So thank you for the feedback.
All right. Can I just ask one quick question? Because I know your roster, there may be a lot more stuff on the roster to get to, but the east property line that I border, are they going to be putting a privacy fence from Longdonay all the way to that corner to give all the residents of Egret privacy? Because I've got a total of 6 lots that border just my 230-foot wide piece of property. I got 6 houses that are going to be up against me. And truthfully, I thought about buying all 6 lots just to not have a dang houses right there in front, and so I could, you know, enjoy that.
We can probably make that happen for you if you want to, but the city of Youngsville has an ordinance that fencing is required along all city streets. So I will defer to the developer to maybe hear his vision for the homes that would be constructed along that east border of your property.
Well, I attended the original meeting that occurred for this development, I guess about a year ago, and the same question regarding a fencing was brought up. And I can't recall the answer that was given about it, but it sounded like they said they were going to take every measure they could to put the fence up. The developer would take that measure to put the fence up, but there's never been any yes or no on it. And I kind of would like to know if they're gonna do it just as a courtesy to the beautiful bordering properties that are gonna be butted up against the east wall, you know.
Thank you, sir. That's why we're here. So, Mr. Hebert, your thoughts on the fence on the east side?
I mean, generally they get built as the houses get built. I know the guys that are building the houses, they're not going to be building and selling houses without fences. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. And I know that I've received several calls from Mr. Mayu's mama who wants some of those lots. So we could pick a couple for her for sure.
All right. I didn't know my mama called. She's sneaky.
Builder that she's friends with since the beginning. So I'm gonna take a look at the plat and I'll make sure she gets 2 of those lots. So that'll at least eliminate that problem, you know.
Mr. Mayu, just to complete the circle there, the council's taking notes, and it'll be at their discretion if they choose to impose that requirement on the council when they take action on this development at 6 o'clock this evening. So
thank you, Ken. Appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir. Appreciate your feedback. Let's see, Hunter, any comment from Hunter or let's see. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening. How are you doing?
Yes, doing fine. If you wouldn't mind just giving us your name, and I'm assuming you're calling about Cane Haven development.
Yes, sir. My name is Romero. I've been just south of Cane Haven there. We just recently built a house and lived in this area for 36 years in this property. But just 2 things I wanted to make note of, and Mr. Mayu already touched on it, and y'all have already touched on a lot of the drainage issues. But I just wanted to let you guys know I do have a lot of pictures from rains in the past years of the area, and if anybody would like those, I'd be happy to share those with you guys. I think the amount of water is pretty tremendous that flows through this area. And I think the pictures might shine some light on that. It's a lot more, I think, than is expected. But yeah, I have plenty of pictures if anybody's interested, and also the fence, as Mr. Mayu touched on. It'd be really nice to have that on the south side as well, if that's possible.
Let's see, Mr. Romero, I just sent you a private message with an email address to please send me any pictures. You can address it to Ms. Andrews, our city clerk, and then she'll distribute them to the team.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll send those over to you guys. I think
I
I've
have
I've
some
pictures
too.
from Rob.
Sorry, Hunter, go ahead, please.
Oh yeah, I have plenty of pictures from the ditch in Robbo Lane, which is pretty much capped full. And also, if you look on the map, it's a little bit off of that previous map with Cane Haven, but all the way at the south end of Robbo Lane, where it meets Piat, that tends to flood over the road, and actually the water comes pouring out of the ditch where it meets the culvert, and then it runs over the end of Robbo Lane, which I think it'll eventually wash it out. So I think it's pretty much to capacity as it is right now. Any additional water that flows through will probably do some damage there. But yeah, I'll get those pictures over to you guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate the feedback.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's
I'll-
see.
I got a quick question, Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Abshar.
For Wes and Mallory, I mean, just to put at ease on the fencing along the, I guess that would be the east and the south borders. Would that be a problem for you to put requirements when the lot's sold to mandate that's part of the development of that piece of that parcel once it's developed, that they do put a fence up?
So as far as like who's going to carry the burden of it, I think it's going to happen anyway. But I do have partners that I would have to get back with before making any kind of decision like that. But I'm pretty confident, even if we didn't require it, that as these homes are built, the builders are going to fence them in. It's not normal for them not to.
I know something. Is this neighborhood going to have a HOA to it?
Yes. Oh yeah, it will.
Put it in the covenants and restrictions that it has to be fenced in, and that's
right. I want to seek some counsel before making a decision, if you don't mind.
Okay, that's fine.
I have some advisors that I bring in, and I also need to talk with the builders that we've already slated to do business with. But I can tell you that the builders that we have in this subdivision are all local, high quality home builders. So these aren't going to be $150,000 homes, or they're not going to be. These homes are going to be in the 150s, 160s a square foot more than likely, and at that price point, the buyers want fences. So right. I don't it's not happening.
Well, I was just trying to kind of ease a little bit of anxiety, if you will,
When we look at the subdivision, it's a lot like Copper Meadows or Cypress Meadows or Cypress Gardens, and all of those. It's standard for the builders to provide a fence. They're all putting right. So I think it's going to be okay. But before I give you a solid, let me follow up with my partners, and let me get with the guys that are advising us on this.
Okay, fair enough.
Not off to it though, but it'll be fenced. It's going to be fenced.
Due to what special we might be running.
Yeah, we got the special and you got an equity discount on mine, which doesn't show on this one. You know what
All right. I'm going to take a risk here and unmute everybody just so I can find out if there's any other public comment.
Yeah.
If you don't want us to hear your conversation, please maybe just mute yourself immediately after I unmute all the lines. So, okay, any other public comment? Yes, sir, you have the floor. Go right ahead. Right, any other public comment from members of the audience related to this development?
Yes, sir. My name is Randall Gunn.
Yes, how you doing, Mr. Gunn? We were just talking about
Yes, sir. I'm doing fine. Talking about that traffic impact analysis, I believe, yes, you do need to do that. Considering adding all these homes and all these other extra families and extra vehicles coming in and out of this subdivision on Langlaney, it's going to be dangerous. It's going to be dangerous for a kid to scoot out on Langlaney with his bicycle. So not doing a traffic impact analysis, that I advise against that. Y'all need to do that and consider the added traffic. I also would like to address the fencing on the south side adjacent with my property, because there's going to be 6, 7 backyards backed up against my backyard. And in 16, with the flooding that came out of this cane field and those retention ponds already flooded, like the other neighbors talked about, y'all need to be confident in that we're not going to flood. Also, on as far as having over 200 homes built here, traffic coming in and out of this subdivision on Langlaney, with the traffic that zooms by there, and it's not wide enough to take. It's not wide enough to take a couple of large trucks.
I think it muted.
Mayor, I think you muted him.
Mr. Gunn, just give me 1 second, please, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah, we were listening to you, but then I inadvertently cut you off when you were talking about the traffic on Langlaney Road just a few seconds ago.
Yes, sir. I'm talking about the traffic impact analysis.
Yes, we did catch that from you.
You need to do that and consider the fact that you're having all these extra vehicles come out of this subdivision. It's not going to be safe for children to ride their bikes outside that subdivision. And as it is, traffic going each way on Langlaney, it is, you pretty much got to almost get off the road, especially if you're driving a couple of trucks. The flooding that occurs on Langlaney and the flooding that comes out of that cane field coming south to my backyard is going to be extra with all this construction. And you just need to be confident in making sure that I'm not going to flood. And also the fencing, like I said, there's going to be 6, 7 backyards on my backyard, and I've spent quite a bit of money here, and I'd hate to move, but I'm very anxious about over 200 homes coming up in my backyard.
Thank you, Mr. Gunn. We appreciate the comments. Yes, Giano.
Yeah, it seems like the fencing seems to be a hot topic of discussion. I'm pretty sure that they've alliterated that the fencing will be put up. From my understanding is that they're going to put the fencing up as the homes are being built. So it's not like they're going to put up 6 homes with the fencing, but they're also not going to put up, a 300-yard fence line at all the beginning. Basically, the fence will be put up as the homes are constructed. So there will be a fence that will be some privacy from Mr. Gunn and the residents surrounding him, if I'm understanding that correctly. Wesley, is that correct?
Generally speaking, and I'll lean on some of my experience. I manage a real estate sales team in Lafayette. We do about 150 residential transactions a year, and we probably do 50 new construction transactions a year easily. And it's almost become industry standard that buyers want the fence installed. So the builders are just like the builders put the sidewalk in when they finish grading the yard. Typically, before they close on the house, they put the fence up. And
Absolutely.
really, I've seen developers spend. It's a ton of money to fence in that property, and then what happens is the fence gets hit and damaged over and over and over again because we've actually made the lots harder for grade for the builders. So it's like, that's why normally the fence is one of the last things that goes in, because they're going to grade that backyard. They're going to, and man, listen, when the fence is there, it makes it hard to grade. And I'm telling you, they get hit over and over and over again. So that's
No,
why
yeah, I understand. Yeah, that's what I just wanted to clarify. It sounds like it's I mean, obviously those new homeowners are going to want some privacy for Mr. Gunn and his surrounding neighbors as well. So it's not like they're going to want to build a $250,000, $300,000 home and not have a fence for privacy.
Yeah, well, what we can do, I can tell you this for sure, is we can make sure that they can't put like a picket fence instead of a privacy fence. So we can't. I can't say you have to put a fence, but if you put a fence, which their buyers are going to require them to put I mean, I'm telling you, 100%. The builders are being requested to add fence, and even when they don't want to, they do it anyway. I know for a fact builders that are coming in our subdivisions are going to put the fences. They include them as standard, so it's not a problem. But if I'm living on the other side of the fence and I'm worried about my privacy, I can't say who's going to pay for it, but it's going to go there. And if it goes there, it has to be a 6-foot or a 7-foot privacy fence, not a picket fence. I could see as an owner of one of the estate lots, which let me tell you guys, we're happy. I'm so happy that you are our neighbors, right? Versus what it could be. I mean, I think this area right here, Egret and Longlanay, and I think this whole area is going to be it's going to be like it's going to be a very nice residential area. I really think that this is going to be a beautiful area. All of our values are going to go up because we all complement each other, the finished product. But for sure, I would say in the restrictions, we're going to require that the fence on the exterior lots have to be a privacy fence. Can't be a picket fence or a
Sounds like the developer's comfortable having it in his restrictive covenants. So that would be my recommendation to the council to advise. And then if it's if it's problematic for the investors, we can hear it again. Not a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
The type and style of
time of construction.
Correct. And then my other question was the drainage obviously is being discussed a lot. Ken, have we had any kind of any call-ins or inputs from any kind of residents in the surrounding areas that are part of the city limits of flooding issues around that area? I mean, obviously I've lived here my whole life and I don't know that it's ever flooded to the point where it's been so bad that I've noticed any kind of concern, but I also don't travel it every day.
I would just like to add some layman talk because I'm a regular guy. Well, I mean, I depend on people like Pam and Mallory to tell me how this stuff works because they understand the science and the math. But from what I understand, just from growing up around crawfish fields my whole life and sugarcane fields, is that field right there was not set up to control and gate water flow. That field was set up to trap water because it was a farm, right? It was made to hold water. So I believe that in a heavy rain, it can look bad. But I know that from where we stand, when we view it, when the water's high, we can't really see what's going on. But I have driven that whole property within a week of a hard rain in my truck and got around no problem. But I think we need to remember that in its current state, even though we've dug the ponds, there's no drains on those ponds. That basically it's just going to hold water until it gets operating, And at the end of the day, scientifically with the drainage analysis that we've done at great length, because we were very concerned about from the beginning, we're cutting down the flow of water from that property by at least 15%. So everybody in the surrounding properties, especially south of us, is going to be better. And listen, after that it gets into science and math, and I got to let the engineers talk. So, but I wanted to share from like a normal perspective.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment from anyone that we've not heard from on the development? Let's give anyone that has not commented an opportunity to comment. Mr. Gunn, I'll get back to you in just a moment, sir, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Any other comment from anyone else? Please get my attention just in case I'm overlooking you somehow. Okay, well, seeing or hearing none from anyone else. Mr. Gunn, we'll let you go ahead and close it out, sir, for us.
Yes, sir. Mr. Wesley talked about 100% sure of the fencing. So I'd like to make sure that that's done. Also, the drainage, Mr. Mayor, coming from behind my house, adjacent to the subdivision's property, all the way down Piat, down Robbo Lane, adjacent to my property. The government did that work, and it is, sinkholes are all along that drainage. And it's also along Piat Road in front of my house and my father's house. And no one's addressed it. And we keep filling it up with dirt that we have to buy or dig out the pond. And we filled them up and filled them up over and over again. And there is sinkholes all along here. Yes, sir. You see that tall grass where that tall grass is? Over. That right by that tell. Yes, sir, right there. We keep filling that in, and there's a bunch of them. And each catch pin along Piat Road, we have to keep filling in that dirt. Look, you can see a sinkhole right there. You can see it.
Okay, if you don't mind, let me just ask a question here, because I'm sorry, I'm looking at a small thumbnail on my screen. Can somebody from my team advise me if this is this inside our city limits here?
It is not.
Okay, yeah, you know, that's probably why it hasn't been addressed, because we're not the party responsible for it. But I will message you the contact information for your parish council member, and I'm sure he'd welcome your feedback on that.
Yes, sir. If we're adding more water to come flowing through here, I'm looking at a mess going on just west of my house.
Well, I think
it should be less water going through this channel, not more.
With those retention ponds filled up?
Correct.
They're already filled up?
Well, the retention ponds right now, you may see them filled. I'm almost certain Mallory can chime in maybe. They started moving dirt over here and prior to our approval, so we had them stop. So they didn't install any outfalls on the pond, I would assume, which is why it's been 5 days and they have not drained.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Well,
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, the collection system and the drainage system. This is a preliminary plat. The Cane Haven does not have a construction permit to do work inside the city limits of Youngsville. They started doing preliminary work because it was in between political jurisdictions. They've since stopped until there's an approved set of plans. But until what's constructed, or until what's approved is constructed, what you're looking at is, you know, a raw piece of property that's had dirt work that has a hole in the ground. I wouldn't really consider it a drainage pond yet because it doesn't have the components that are necessary. So I appreciate the anxiety. That's why we're having this meeting, and you know, I mean, we will get it done. The drainage review will be reviewed by multiple professional engineers that are stamping their professional certifications on it in a community that has the most rigorous drainage standards in Acadiana or probably in the area. So I'm sorry that your comments to LCG haven't been addressed since 2018, but
no, we addressed it much longer, longer than the 18.
All right. Anyone else have any public comment? All right. We'll hear none. Appreciate all the input. And we're going to begin the public hearing at this point for our third and final public hearing. Let me make one just final comment. This development, Mr. Mayu, Mr. Hunter, Mr. Gunn, it will be on the 6 o'clock council agenda for council action. So we won't be in this Zoom format, but you'll be able to watch on YouTube. If you go to the City of Youngsville's website, youngsville.us, the top left-hand corner, there's a link that you can follow us live at live council meeting, and that's where the council will take the action. So, all right, well, let's get ready to move ahead on. Our final public hearing is the preliminary plat approval of Moncherie subdivision, a single-family residential subdivision located in section 19 T11S R5E, and the developer is Rusty Broussard. This evening with this, we also have Mr. Broussard's, the professional engineer of record for this project is Will Poche. He has joined us. And I'm not sure if there's anybody else from his team that have joined us, but we'll get to them. Consistent with how we've handled the other public hearings, we'll let Mr. Clint Semino go through the letter that's addressed to me related to this development that we're hearing. And then we'll open it up for council comments. And then we'll take all the public comments that are there. If you're just joining us to hear about Mont Cherie and you have public comment, 346, this is the telephone number you'll have to call into. It's 346-248-7799, 346-248-7799. The meeting ID that you'll be asked for is 882-5349-1207, 882-5349-1207. Clint?
All right, this is Mont Cherie. This is just west of the intersection of Langston Court and Guyot Grove. It was a preliminary plat that was submitted and reviewed for general compliance with the requirements for development of in the city of Youngsville. We recommend the city of Youngsville approve this preliminary plat with the following comments. They need to identify the setbacks: 20-foot front, 5-foot side, 10-foot rear. They need to include lot areas for each lot. They had missing or incorrect dimensions on lot 4, 62, 75, 90, 104 to 107, 118, 119, 126, and 134 through 144. And lastly, the land use ordinance shows a conflict number of 5 due to the existing industrial facility. The ordinance shows for the conflict number 5 to have a 50-foot green belt and a fence required along the perimeter of the boundary of Aries Marine. So what that is in reference to is Aries Marine is an industrial lot here. Mont Cherie is coming in here. And looking at the land use ordinance, this road Guyot is a major arterial district. So when you're looking at the ordinance for land use, it is existing industrial and it is R1, which shows the conflict number of 5. And when you look back at the conflict number, at 5, a 50-foot green belt is required and a fence. All right, moving forward to the plat subdivision conditions, we recommend waiving condition 5 of the ADRC review report and replacing it with the City of Youngsville's drainage ordinance. We recommend waiving condition 11 of the ADRC review report as there is an existing stub out on the plat to the west. What this condition is referring to, the ADRC was asking for an additional stub out. They already have one, so we are recommending that just one stub out is adequate. 3, we recommend no waivers on the remaining 10 conditions included in the ADRC review report. 4, street addresses for the properties shall be included on the plat. 5, the review of this preliminary plat is for general conformance with the overall development requirements. 6, a perimeter fence shall be required where the development faces a public street, park, or other public property in accordance with the city's ordinances. 7, approval of this preliminary plat does not imply that the utility services necessary to serve the development currently exist, nor if they do have the capacity to serve the planned development. 8, if desired in the future, the owner developer is responsible for any required sewer infrastructure. 9, if desired in the future, the owner developer shall utilize the city's water system as a source of water for the development. 10, a minimum of 10% common open space is required for all residential developments. Detention ponds can only account for 50% of common area. Detention ponds must be aerated to count as common open space. 11, submittal of a drainage impact analysis shall be submitted to the city for a review and approval prior to construction. Please note that this subdivision is subject to the 25-year detention requirements. 12, all signage shall conform to the city sign ordinance. The proposed signage will be evaluated when the required sign permit application is submitted for review. 13, any changes to the preliminary plat made after this initial review may require a resubmittal of the preliminary plat. 14, the owner developer is reminded that the final design and all construction activities associated with the development of this plat, including required submittals and permits, must comply with the city's ordinances in effect at the time of the submittal and the city's residential design, development, and resource guide. 15, the developer is reminded that inspection services are required in the most recent Unified Development Code. 16, the developer is reminded that this letter does not permit the initiation of construction activities. And 17, the construction plans submitted for this detailed review should be a complete set of plans. Mayor, do you want to take over from here?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Clint. Appreciate the review. Guys, we have on this, on the call, we have Mr. Rusty Broussard. He's the developer of this project. And we also have Will Poche, who is the engineer of record for this development. As Clint just reviewed, this is a proposed residential subdivision on Guyot Road. And happy to entertain any questions from the council members at this time. Okay, we've had several meetings with the developer and his team on this project. Just a couple of general comments from myself. I'm really excited about this development. Mr. Broussard has done work in our city and in the other surrounding areas before. I think it's going to be I know it's going to be a great product. Mr. Broussard and I've had multiple conversations about his desire to have local builders develop in our community. So I'm really looking forward to that. He's been a pleasure to work with, and they have noted all the comments that were outlined in Clint's letter. I've shared with everyone already. My request is that we support the developer's waiver, which he is requesting a waiver for the land use conflict next to Aries Marine. I've reviewed the use of the property at Aries Marine, and I believe that I'm comfortable supporting the developer's waiver request for a 9-foot fence in that area. But I'll open it up for any council discussion. And if there is none, I'll give Will and Rusty the opportunity to make any comments if they have any. Rusty and Will, you're unmuted. It does not look like the council has any comments at this time.
Thank you guys for having us. The only waiver that we have is basically the 50-foot green belt requirement, against where we're boarding Aries Marines. But other than that we have no other. We're good with everything that the city's asking for us to do. So if there's any questions that would like to be asked, or I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for the development.
All right. Thank you, Will. Any other comments? Rusty, anything for the council?
The only thing for the council is it's an 8-foot fence.
8 foot.
8 foot, yeah.
If that would help.
And to be honest with you, I was the one who said 9 foot because I keep on thinking it's 9 foot, but the boards only come in 8 foot. And Rusty corrected me twice on that one.
Will, I wasn't gonna throw you under the bus like that.
I'll throw myself, buddy. Yeah, that's my bad.
I appreciate you owning up to it. So, any comments about this proposed development? All right, is there any public comment about this proposed development? We're discussing now Mont Cherie. It's a proposed residential subdivision on Guyot Road, and it's 153 lots. Looks like it's about 40 acres. Guyot Road, between Chemin Agriab and I don't know, across from St. David's Cove in that area. All right.
South of the Cooley on Giat Road. Whenever you cross, if you're coming down south on Giat, you cross over the bridge. It's like right south of. Basically, it borders that the bridge.
All right, thank you, Will. I'll do one final call for public comment. If there's anyone that's watching on our YouTube channel that has public comment, please phone in to 346-248-7799. At that, when you dial that number, 346-248-7799, you'll be prompted for the meeting ID. That meeting ID is 882-5349-1207. 882-5349-1207. There's a few second delay between our conversation here in YouTube, so we'll just give it a couple of minutes.
Oh, Ken, I have a side note question for you real quick. Will Giat Road in that section be overlaid or repaired anytime in the near future? Because it's already pretty much destroyed from the construction going into Giat, or into Sugar Ridge, I'm sorry. So I'm just imagining the more through traffic on Giat going into here is going to be increasing the depreciation of the road.
Yes, sir. Good comment. I hope so. Giat is a state highway there, Louisiana Highway 89. But we can include that in our communication, that the state representative for that area is Bo Boyer. We'll make sure that we include that feedback. As you know, we've been working on outreach for capital outlay for Youngsville Highway, but does not include that section right now. So we can expand that to make sure the state's aware of the development in that area.
Awesome.
All right. Any other comments from members of the council or anyone else that's on this call? All right. We'll hear none. What we'll do is we're going to adjourn the public hearing. Now it's at 5:48. We're going to resume the council meeting, or actually we're going to start the council meeting, excuse me, at 6 p.m. So we're going to log out of this meeting, and please join us at 6 p.m. on our YouTube channel to watch the stream meeting of the regular meeting of the Youngsville Mayor and City Council. So the public hearing's adjourned. Thank you all very much.